Hi, good morning. This is Sarah and Kyle Hughes. Today is show 3 of Coffee with Hughes Realty. And today's topic is we're going to talk about psychology of a buyer.
Yeah, hey everybody, Kyle here. Today we're talking about psychology of a buyer, and it's from the perspective of a seller. Hey, I want to list my property. How do I get that house in the best presented shape that buyers will react to, so you can get the most amount of money from that sale?
Right, because most buyers, when they're looking at properties, when they're seeing them in the MLS or seeing them online, most buyers are going to go off of emotion, and that's how they're going to come visit a particular property. We have a saying that buyers buy an emotion and then they back it by logic, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, even I'm guilty of that too in my personal life, and I work real estate. When you see a property and you're like, that's going to fit my lifestyle, that's where I want to live, that's the look I want, you can justify it to yourself. Oh, we can pay a little bit extra for it.
Yep,
or,
exactly.
we can crunch the numbers and make it work. So,
And another thing too is price is always a myth too. Just to reiterate interject, on that too. Buyers are like, hey, I'm only going to go up to $250. Well, if they can qualify for more, some people are tough to their number, but most are not. Most people don't care its value. So if they have one for $275 that actually fits their needs, they're going to buy that. They may say something's too expensive at $250, but it's too expensive for that product. Move them up, Exactly. So as a listing agent and positioning, the property, we want to appeal to the emotions of that buyer.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to talk about today is how, through the services that we provide, through staging, through talking about just kind of how to appeal to that buyer, we're going to be able to have your property stand out amongst the others on the market, as well as net you the most amount of money that you can for your property.
Exactly. Tell them about the one listing in Cedar Park that we had.
Oh, sure.
The vacant stage one.
Sure. So we had a property, we have a listing in Cedar Park. This was a couple months ago, and we went over to the property when the owners were still living there. Walked it, real great property, great floor plan. They end up moving, and it's a vacant property at this point. So we walked back in it, and vacant. It didn't feel great. I didn't love being in it when it was vacant. It had slight odor, just wasn't as warm and as welcoming. So what we did as part of our services then is we brought in staging furniture. We brought in, we encouraged them to get a cleaner to do a light clean of the property. Brought in some candles, air fresheners, everything that makes the home feel warm.
Well, and let me talk on that too, like smell, odor. Every single house is going to have an odor if it's been lived in. Even new construction houses smell like new construction houses.
Yeah.
So one thing is appealing initially when that buyer comes in that property, they smell and it's vanilla. It's an inviting smell. I showed a property the other day and they had cookies on the counter. They were fresh baked cookies. They looked great. And I was like, they did good. That's really, really good because it totally puts your emotion side into things.
And I always say too, listing your property in a way is kind of like hosting a party. So you're not going to have a bunch of people come over for a party and not have any candles lit, or you're not going to have like an inviting scent, or you know what I mean? So you want it to be, even though these are strangers coming into your home, you want it to be as warm and as welcoming and as inviting as possible, because this is someone's first impression. Smell is the first impression, even before they look around and see anything. If a property
that can be a deal killer.
Yeah,
if you cooked a spicy meal the night before and you got garlic smell or something like that, that could ruin it right there.
It's hard for people to look past that. And I know, listening to this logically, you're like, well, if it's a good floor plan, if it's a good deal, we can look past it. But you'd be surprised, right? A lot of buyers just simply cannot look past it. So anyway, for that particular property, we came in. We staged the living room. It looked really great, super cozy. We did light staging in the kitchen, and then upstairs we did light staging as well. And that property, let me tell you, when he came back in after it was staged and we had some candles going for an open house, it was so warm and inviting and welcoming. I loved to be in it. It just felt cozy, and people came in and they could picture living there.
Yeah, exactly. And we know too on that one, So for staging a property, there's a couple things. We staged it, but we also, touched up a little, some things too. But I know for a fact that property would have sold for about $8,000 less if it would have been vacant. So one thing that Sarah and I do, we do a completely free vacant stage. It's just part of our listing service. So if you're an investor or you moved out and you have a vacant property and you're like, hey, I want to make more money on the sale, let us know. We do it for free.
Well, and not only we do it for free. It's really fun actually, and it's super cool when our clients can see the before and after pictures, because it's game changing. And not only are the properties selling for more because they're staged, they're also selling quicker.
Exactly.
So a vacant home. Why would a buyer be enticed by that when they're looking at the photos online? It's hard to picture the furniture placement. It's hard to picture the lifestyle. There's no emotion.
It's hard to even picture space.
Mm-hmm.
If things are vacant, sometimes they can look smaller versus when you have, furniture set up in the living room. It may be like, oh, this absolutely makes sense,
mm-hmm.
versus like, I don't know what I would do with this. I don't know. But it's all that emotion,
Well, exactly.
What's in it?
We have a listing right now, actually, in South Austin, where the living room is kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting, it has like a cutout into the dining. And when we first walked into it too, it was kind of like, oh, I wonder how you would fit the couch in here. It just seems like a kind of a unique space to me. But after thinking about it, we put a sectional in there, and sure enough, it made sense. That whole property made sense.
Yeah, it fits perfect to that wall, yeah.
And whenever, when I was doing opens there and people came in, they're like, wow, like, this is what I would do too. And so that was cool, and it really helped to sell that property. So that's one thing for sure that we'll talk to you about.
The other thing too is, minor, touch-ups in repairs. We had, countless times, where, let's say the walls need touch-up paint, or there's, a handprint or dirt or a little bit like that. A little bit goes such a long way, and paint is so cheap. So I always advise to go around, quick touch up all the little paint things if you can. Now, every house is going to be different depending on the condition, but little things like that make a huge difference.
Oh, they really do. And the thing is, it's so cheap because I would say 9 out of 10 properties, you have the touch-up paint in your garage. It's been left there from the last time you purchased. And if you don't, you can color match it real easy. And it just makes a world of difference. Speaking from personal experience, so Kyle and I, we have 2 dogs. And one thing that we do that we probably shouldn't is we play with the ball a lot in the house, right? So you eat the tennis ball hit the walls, and there's like little, marks. Is it a huge deal us living there? No, it doesn't bother me at all. But if someone's coming into the property, it's so easy to cover that up, and it looks brand new. It shows brand new and clean.
Well, think about it from the analogy of purchasing a car. So you got an Audi A4, and one is dirty on the outside. One, you get in the inside and there's dirt, there's, rocks, there's, some of the seats have a little stuff on them. And one that's, the other A4 you get in and it smells amazing. It's fresh. You get the emotion right away of, oh my gosh, this is going to make me happier. Yeah. And that's the only reason somebody buys anything, is because they think having it's going to make them feel better. So the one A4, the dirty one, guess what? If you spend a couple hours, it's going to be exactly the same as the other one. But a lot of people just overlook that and say, well, of course, they're more logical on it than emotion. Well, hey, it's a house sale. People would want to buy it at the same price because it's per the comps and everything like that. But you flip it, you need to look at the emotion of that buyer to really maximize sales price, time on market, and really the overall investment.
Well, exactly. And I think too, your perception is your reality. So if you walk into a home and you perceive this home as move-in ready, you're not seeing nicks or, nail holes or anything like that. You're like, this is a move-in ready home. And that's your reality. Okay, it's perfect. Whereas, there's an identical home next door, but it has a couple nail holes, or it has, maybe you need to touch up paint. And just the logical brain would say, okay, exact same property, but that's not how it works, right? Your buyer's always going to go to that one that looks move-in ready.
Talk about townhomes that have the same floor plan and sell for, 10, 15 plus $1,000 difference.
Yeah.
They're the same house. They're the same floor plan,
Yeah.
same granite, same countertop, same, everything practically. Sure, the carpet may be dirty and the walls might need a little touch up, but that's kind of her point. $15,000 or spend $500 and get your property to where it needs to be, or stage it properly too.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of what we're trying to drive home with this too, is like, we're not asking our sellers to spend thousands up front to get their home to be the most beautiful home, the most model-like home. What we're going to do is we're going to come in and work with what we have, right? So we're going to suggest really minor, easy fixes. I think touch-up paint's the biggest, the easiest that you can do. Another one is going to be have your curtains open, have the blinds open, let as much natural light into the property as possible. We'll work with you with the furniture you have. We're not asking you to go out and buy all new furniture. That's unrealistic. We'll bring a stager in, or we'll come and stage it ourselves, and we'll use what we have and just make it look as good as possible.
Yeah.
And then with the photography too, we're gonna, really enhance what's there and highlight the home from its best angle.
And I encourage, if any of you guys are actually thinking about selling, go take a look at our website. And we have a sellers tab, and we have a home staging page too. I think it's on the home staging page, you can go see a bunch of before and after photos of staging before and after, but look at the lighting quality too. One is kind of dark and it's like you don't really feel good there, and the other one's bright. So when we do our photos and market and everything, it's just appealing to that buyer. And then when they get there, the first thing we want them to know is it smells good. It smells good, and they want to look around and it's clean. Yep. It doesn't need to be anything great, this and that, whatever, but it has to be clean and ready to show.
Oh, yeah. So I think it's really cool talking about the staging. Honestly, I could talk about this all day, but let's switch a little bit in another aspect of psychology of a buyer. So let's talk about kind of the supply and demand and a buyer. I mean, everyone wants kind of what they can't have. And so one thing as listing agents that we do too is we really, really build up demands for properties. And as far as this goes, it's kind of, we want to get as many people into the property right after it hits the market as possible, because if you come to an open house and you're the only one at the open house, you're kind of like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
But if you come to an open house and it's packed with 20 other groups in there and everyone's walking around looking at the property, what is your brain going to do?
Yeah.
Your brain's going to be like, gosh, I want to get this before any of these other 20 people can get this.
Yeah, exactly. People want what other people want. And that's such a good point on, and I relate that to bottom line for that seller in making the most amount of money. Mm-hmm. Supply and demand. People want what other people want. And if they know there's a demand and there's an urgency beyond that, they're going to make more money because people are going to get emotional with their offer. Exactly. And back it by logic. Hey, other people want this. It has to be a good investment, blah, 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 which in turn, you're tapping into that, to really net the seller the most amount of money on that.
Yeah, well, and I think a great example, one that I always come back to, was we had a listing in Gerald. Now, this listing was super cute. It had everything it needed to in order to get top dollar for that property. So it was staged adorable. It smelled great. I mean, just a real cute house. We began marketing that property about a week before we even had it hit the market. So we built up that coming soon demand for those sellers. And we advertised the open a week out. Day of the open house, it was just, I was there and I had a lender there with me, and I got there. I always get to my opens maybe half an hour early just to set up and kind of prepare. And I remember calling Kyle and saying, oh my goodness, there's already cars lined up in front of the property to get in, and I hadn't even set up yet. Yeah. This is a half an hour ahead of time. So what I knew right there was, okay, we got the demand built up. Get in the home. I think it was a 2 or 3 hour open house. I mean, it was nonstop. People coming in. And what was really cool about that is the buyers who ended up buying it were there too, and they saw this. They saw the demand. They saw people coming. And it was worth what they purchased it for, but they jumped on
Yeah,
it.
and
They knew.
that's one thing I want to reiterate too, that it's supply and demand. But one thing that Sarah and I do different than a lot of agents, and I know this because I've talked to different sellers after we won listings, and they said, hey, this is what other agents wanted to sell our property for. And I'm not kidding, thousands of dollars, like tens of thousands of dollars, that we've saved them. And in one thing, I guess my point on this is, it's not undervalued when we put it. We try to push the market and, to the highest price point that we possibly can, where it still will appraise, and build up that demand within that. And that's really, some of the differences that we do to all incorporate that psychology of the buyer and really to present that listing as perfectly as possible.
Yeah. Exactly. We're going to push it. Our goal as listing agents is we want you to get every single penny's worth of that property. We want to push the market, and we want to do everything on our side to get you top dollar. So, I think the biggest thing, honestly, is just, because I know everyone thinks that their property is great. Like, I get it. Like, as a seller, you're like, well, I live here. I love it. It's perfect for me. It's functioning. I love it. But really, I would advise as a seller to listen to your realtor and to take all of their advice, because they're not coming from it from an emotional point. We're coming at it from a very logical, like, hey, this is what we see. This is what works. Just take our advice. And, we're going to help you.
And here's the thing, too. It's just, it is what it is. Like, if somebody had to come into our house today and say, we're selling it, or vice versa. If, I was to come in and say, okay, Sarah, we're selling this today, what do we have to do? It would be completely different, So it's not that, your property isn't good enough. Everybody lives like that. But the thing is, to position it to sell, it's differently. And that's the whole concept of, hey, go into a model house and, and see.
Yeah, and that's kind of what, I kind of just say, like, too, is once you decide to list and sell your property, kind of consider it's not really your property anymore. It's fine that, beforehand, if you, however you lived is totally fine. But once it's on the market, it's essentially a model home for people to walk through until you can get that offer. So, we're just
and we have different, advice, I guess, to where it's still functional to live in, but yet it's model ready too, just with the showings and everything too. So I would say, like, to conclude today, takeaways would be position your house so buyers, when they walk in, feel comfortable, they can picture themselves there, and it makes them feel good. Because remember, buyers buy just because they feel happier. They feel like it's a solution. Buying this is going to make me happier. Having a third car garage is going to make me happier. Having a larger living room, larger kitchen. I want to entertain family in this space, or whatever. I want to have parties here, whatever that may be. So I guess takeaway would be, have your property show ready. Stage your property if need be, have it smell good, have a lot of natural light in your property, every light on in that house when you have showings. If you do have, like, if you have that, to play light music, that's fantastic to tap into your that sense as well.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, not only get it ready, but listen to your realtor too, as far as building up that demand on the property, because I think those two things together are going to be what really helps to have it pop.
It's like a series of several things to really, maximize it, but it's all, involved in that. So I totally down with that.
Absolutely. So if you do have any questions on this, or you're thinking about selling, not maybe ready right now, but in the next few months, it's never too early to start thinking about what you can do. Kyle and I are more than happy to come over for a consultation, even if it's 6 months out. We can talk to you about landscaping, staging, slight home improvements. Right now we're talking with someone about, should they upgrade? Should they paint their kitchen cabinet? Should they upgrade to granite? We're fine to do this ahead of the listing. We're happy to. Actually, it really is kind of a fun part of our job for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So call us if you are thinking about it, and we'll be more than happy to come over and shoot any questions that you have, and we'll be happy to answer that for you guys.
We'll talk to you guys soon.